Hello, nice to meet you. This is Dr. Kim from Richgo. Hello, nice to meet you. This is Kim Ki-hyun from Richgo. Today I find it a bit confusing because I've been hearing news about skyrocketing housing prices. However, according to a recent announcement from the Korea Association of Realtors, there are indicators showing that real estate prices in Seoul have declined. Indicators showing an increase and those showing a decrease have been released simultaneously. I would like to discuss this due to the confusion caused by today's article.
That's right. Many people think that apartment prices are rising in August and September, but that is completely wrong. It is completely wrong. Let me ask a question here. First of all, I've been mentioning KB real estate statistics and Korean real estate statistics continuously. It's slow. However, many people are judging the current rise in real estate based on outdated data. The media is the same.
We have no choice but to look at the KB statistics data. In fact, that's all we can see. Right.
Statistics from KB and the Korea Real Estate Agency often lag behind the current trends, which is why I've pointed out their issues in several videos. However, there are places that can provide insights into the current price. Trends much more quickly than Richgo, and those are the people working on the ground. Why? The realtors on the ground are the quickest to respond. This is because they write the contracts right away. So you can immediately know how much this apartment was contracted for. That's why the Korea Association of Realtors created a system based on this. Do you understand? So where can you find the fastest way to know the prices in South Korea? It's the Korea Association of Realtors. According to the announcement made by the Korea Association of Realtors, in August, Seoul experienced a significant decline of 4.5% on average, which is the largest drop in the country. So, Seoul is the area with the highest rate of decline nationwide.
What is somewhat surprising is that, according to the data from the Korea Real Estate Agency, I had heard that it had increased by 1.27% in August. However, while there can be differences, the gap between a 4.5% decline and other changes seems quite large. It is indeed significant.
It's quite significant. So, it shows that prices are still rising. If we look at the weekly statistical data, I can point out some details. The Korea Association of Realtors reported that apartment prices in Seoul fell by 4.5% in just 1 month, which is the analysis data for August. As you can see, the metropolitan area dropped by 4.4% and the provinces decreased by 0.7%, meaning that Seoul experienced the largest decline. Now, what this means is, just take a look. The Korea Association of Realtors has prepared the transaction contract information, such as real estate, sales, and lease agreements, reflecting real-time data from the market. Right. So, it can only be the most up-to-date data. Now, what does the association say? They state that the statistical data is at least 1 month faster than the statistics from the Korea Real Estate Agency and is highly representative because it is based on actual transaction contract information. Therefore, what should you all do moving forward? By quickly reviewing the price information released by the Korea Association of Realtors, you can understand the current situation better than anyone else? Now, why did the prices drop so much? Here it comes. The association stated that the reasons for the decline in apartment prices are seasonal factors, and the real estate measures implemented on August 8th, specifically the stress from the second stage of the debt service ratio, DSR. But I believe it is different. There are no seasonal factors. Some people might say that in August, many go on vacation, but what does that mean? When apartments are being bought up rapidly, do you really think about vacation? So, when you look at the actual data, there were many instances where it was still hot up until the end of August. Therefore, I don't think there are significant seasonal factors. Then, regarding the real estate measures discussed on August 8th, those were supply measures, so they had no impact on the real estate market. Also, they mentioned a stress DSR of level 2, but that's not applicable until September. Thus, August was not affected. It is stated here that price fatigue is understandable. People thought prices were somewhat low, but they have risen too much now, leading to fatigue. Because of this, I believe prices did not drop. In fact, there are no longer buyers for the recently increased prices. However, what was also mentioned is that they compared not only to the previous month, but also to the same month last year, which means they compared it to 2023, Compared to that time, there has been a recovery. Discussing it like this is meaningless. Furthermore, when looking at the purchasing proportions, the highest purchasing proportion for apartments in Seoul was among those in their 30s. But in August, the purchasing proportion for those in their 50s significantly increased. Here you can see that the number of people in their 20s has decreased, those in their 30s have increased, the number in their 40s has decreased, and those in their 50s have significantly increased.
There has been almost no change among those in their 60s and above, but it seems that the younger generations in their 20s and 30s, who likely over-leverage themselves, are feeling the burden and are selling off their properties. Additionally, due to various pressures and loan regulations, the 50s age group may not have had sufficient funds.
They didn't switch. I think it might have seemed this way due to switching.
Could you tell me which areas have increased or decreased in price by region?
Now, if you look at this, just take a look. Let's consider Seoul as an egg. This part here is the yolk.
Yongsan District.
Only this one is currently in the red. What I mean is that this one has increased by a whopping 20% compared to the previous month. Of course, what you need to keep in mind is that you should only refer to the actual transaction prices. The data from the Korea Real Estate Agency and KB Real Estate does not rely solely on actual transaction prices. So, the Korea Real Estate Agency has also created and published a separate index called the Actual Transaction Price Index. Right. But this data, released by the Korea Association of Realtors, is based solely on actual transaction prices. What you all need to understand is that while stock prices have only one value, real estate has multiple prices. There are actual transaction prices, asking prices, and market prices that serve as the basis for mortgage loans. It would be good to consider these various factors. Now, the more red it gets, the greater the rate of increase, and the darker the blue, the greater the rate of decrease. So, the last red one increased by more than 10%, while the last blue one decreased by more than 10%.
Seocho fell.
Seocho saw a significant decline.
Jongno-gu saw declines.
Yes, Jongno-gu, Seocho-gu, and where else? Gangseo-gu. What about this area? It has fallen by more than 10% now. Dobong-gu has also decreased by more than 8%, and Seodaemun-gu and Yeongdongpo-gu have both dropped by over 6%. So now, Gangnam District is at minus 0.6, Songpa District is at minus 1.3, and what about Gangdong, Seongdong, Seongbuk, Jung, Mapo, and Dongjak? Still, there is a slight increase, so areas around the Han River, particularly in Yongsan District, are somewhat better. However, in major areas like Seocho and Gangnam, prices have dropped significantly. Overall, this results in an average decline of 4.5%. Now, this is very different from the media we generally encounter. This is the fact of actual transaction prices. Everyone, and if you look at a similar article from Yonhap News, the content is a bit different. Here, it shows the prices rising and then falling, presented in a chart for December. Earlier, we only saw the data for August. Now, if you look closely, when did Seoul hit the bottom? It was in December 2023, right? That's accurate. However, according to KB and the Korea Real Estate Agency's statistical data, it shows that prices started to rise from March, April, and even May.
We can usually determine that it is delayed by about 2 to 3 months, right?
It can be slow 2 to 3 months to 6 or 7 months.
Then too much of a gap.
If there is almost a 6-month difference, then it really has dropped. So, what is the reason we need to look at the data from Richgo, or the Korea Association of Realtors? In order to make a judgment about the real estate market, we need to clearly see whether prices are currently rising or falling. That's right. So, as you can see, it hit the bottom at the end of last year, and has been rising since then. However, starting from August, it's not just Seoul that has been declining. The greater metropolitan area is also experiencing a drop. Therefore, it seems that private surveys are reflecting the market situation quite quickly.
So anyway, you have been talking about the downward trend, but you also mentioned that a downturn is coming. However, it seems that the data is starting to show this as well. Do you think this downturn will gain more momentum?
For now, the pace won't pick up immediately. This is because real estate seems like an aircraft carrier. As I have mentioned repeatedly, the place we call real estate has a massive weight, like a luxury car. Can this guy suddenly accelerate to 100 km/h or 200 km/h just by stepping on the gas? No, right. So, whether prices are rising or falling, they move slowly at first, and then the range widens. I mentioned earlier that there is a high possibility of an inflection point occurring at the time the second phase of the DSR is implemented. I also said that this would be pushed back to September, and that the inflection point would come from September onwards, Looking at the data, it has already arrived. I explained the supply and demand data and transaction trend data, but if you look at September, everything has already turned around. Supply and transactions have all declined, and now there are no buyers left. Just try putting it on the market. It won't sell. When did this market start? It began at the end of 2021. In the first half of 2022, there was a slight decline, and some areas even saw increases. But what happened in the second half of 2022? There was a tremendous crash. There is a very high possibility that such an event will occur in the second half of 2025.
We saw in the comments that you asked for the filming date, and we are filming the day after Chuseok. It's the day after the announcement of the interest rate cut. I would like to briefly ask about the interest rates. They have lowered the rate by 0.5 percentage points. As expected, it seems that our country will also be affected, but fundamentally, the flow of real estate is such that when interest rates are lowered, people's mindset shifts to thinking, well, maybe I should consider investing. Investing in prices can start as a simple game, but it is true that there is a sense of stagnation due to regulations and various policies. How do you see these factors affecting the overall situation?
Basically, a decrease in interest rates is indeed a boon for the real estate market. However, the issue lies in why the interest rates are being lowered. For example, if an unforeseen disaster like the 9/11 attacks or COVID-19 were to occur, then what happens? We need to stimulate the economy. We lower interest rates and infuse the market, leading to higher real estate prices. But why are we lowering interest rates right now? It's correct to say that the economy is struggling. If interest rates are not lowered, serious problems will arise because the economic situation is currently not good. That's why it was a 0.5% cut instead of 0.25%. With an economic recession coming, do you think the real estate market will improve just because interest rates were lowered?
That wouldn't be the case.
If we were to engage in wealth management with such simple logic, who would be unable to make money? So everyone, keep in mind that those who only talk about rising real estate prices will say things like, hey, interest rates have been lowered, it's an opportunity. Those who say this in the second half of next year, make sure to remember it, and let's take a look at the real estate market situation together then. How will it turn out? It's almost scary. No, it's not scary. I just see it as data, because it's spring.
After all, we are talking about the indicators of the data.
Don't be deceived by the talk that the stock market and the real estate market are doing well because of the absolute interest rate cuts. However, for the next month or 2 or maybe 3 months, the trend could be positive. This is because it reflects favorable conditions. But what do real players do? They clear everything out at that time. Therefore, please keep this in mind. The real estate market has completely turned around. I mentioned that the area with the most bubbles in Seoul is indeed Seoul. I told you this clearly. And I said that for those who have a VIP membership, the price is now 3.3 million won per year. I told them to buy a house in July or August, saying it would be the last opportunity. Whether I was right or wrong will likely become clear over time.
Anyway, the Korea Association of Realtors is based on data collected from people who are actually in the field. As a result, we discussed the data indicating that prices had already fallen in August, based on the actual situation. Looking at the field data for September and October, we will probably consider October.
After Chuseok, as the data comes out, and we pass mid-October into November, I think, we might see declines in other data as well.
Today we discussed the data from the Korea Association of Realtors regarding the decline in apartment prices in Seoul and explored the reasons behind it.
Thank you. Yes, thank you.